I'm a Canadian exchange student living in a small town near Gunma, Japan. I've always been into photography, especially urban exploration. Japan has this eerie beauty when it comes to abandoned places, hotels, hospitals, even shrines lost to time. One night at a drinking party, one of the locals whispered something that caught my attention. He said there was a shrine that only appears at night. He didn't say much, only that it was deep in the woods, no road signs, no trail markers, and definitely not on any map. He claimed that it only shows itself if you come alone, and never during the day. It sounded like a ghost story, but I was hooked. A few nights later, around 10 p.m., I took my rented scooter into the countryside, following the vague directions he gave me. It was pitch black out there. The only lights came from my headlamp and the distant flicker of the town behind me. Eventually, I found what looked like an old moss-covered staircase disappearing into the trees. I parked, grabbed my camera, and climbed. The steps were slick and uneven, and halfway up I found a dead cat, its neck twisted unnaturally. Beside it, something was smeared in dark red on a stone. It looked like kanji, but when I scanned it, even Google Translate couldn't recognize the characters. Still, I kept going. At the top, I found it, a broken wooden torii gate, leaning to the side, and beyond it, a shrine. It was small, weathered, rotting, but real. There was an altar in the center. Offering still sat there, a handful of salt, a doll made of fabric with its face torn off, and a bundle of old black and white photos with the eyes scratched out. I raised my camera. But when I looked through the viewfinder, the shrine was gone. The screen showed nothing but trees. I lowered the camera. There it was. Looked again through the lens. Gone. I thought my camera was malfunctioning. I tried different angles, focused on the altar, still nothing. I backed away. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Quick, crunching footsteps in the leaves behind me. I spun around, no one. But the sound continued, circling me, like someone was pacing around the shrine. My chest tightened. I turned to run, then saw something. There was a pale figure standing by the altar. I don't know how I missed it before. It looked like a woman, but something was wrong. Her mouth hung open too wide, like she was in mid-scream, but no sound came out. Her eyes were sunken, pitch black. I ran. Hard. My foot slipped on the mossy steps and I scraped my leg, but I didn't stop. I could still hear the footsteps, chasing me, faster than I was. When I finally reached the road and my scooter, I looked back. The stairs were gone. Just trees. No torii, no steps, no path. I took a photo to prove I'd been there. But in the picture, it's just me, standing in the woods, looking terrified. And if you zoom in, on my wrist, you can see tiny handprints. As if someone had been holding me back, but I was completely alone. Or at least, I thought I was. Last summer, I stayed with my cousins in Nagasaki. One of them, Kaito, is into Urbex like me, and his friend Yui had heard about an abandoned hotel up in the hills, a luxury resort that had shut down after a fire in the early 2000s. Nobody died in it, but apparently, after that incident, the owner just vanished and the place was left to rot. We didn't think twice. One humid evening, the three of us drove up there with flashlights, masks, and our cameras. The hotel sat at the edge of a forest. The facade was weather-worn, the windows broken, vines crawling up the walls. There were no fences, no signs, nothing. Just a wide-open space, like it wanted us to come in. We entered through a busted side door that used to be the kitchen. The stench inside was awful, mold, soot, and something else, like something had been wet for years and then left to rot. We went through the dining hall, chairs flipped, chandeliers broken, but napkins still in place on a few tables, untouched. It was already unsettling. We split up for a bit. I went up to the second floor, found a suite with a cracked mirror and a half-burned mattress. I remember taking a photo of a child's shoe, just one, sitting in the center of the room. That's when I heard Yui shout. She'd found something, a working elevator. I ran down. She was standing in front of it in the main lobby. And yeah, she was right, it looked pristine. Unlike the rest of the hotel, the elevator had no dust, no burns, and the little display above it was still glowing red. Kaito said, "Maybe the backup power's on." Yui was already pressing buttons. She grinned and said, "Let's check out the basement. B2. The doors slid open. It was clean inside. Too clean. We stepped in. The light above flickered once and then the doors closed. The elevator started moving down, slowly. There were no sounds, no music, no mechanical humming, just silence. And tension. When the doors finally opened, it wasn't what we expected. There was a hallway, but it wasn't like the hotel. The walls were made of cracked concrete and covered in paper charms, hundreds of them, fluttering lightly despite no wind. I recognized them from shrines, Ofuda. They're meant to seal evil spirits. Then Yui whispered, "Do you hear that?" It was breathing. From the walls. Low, heavy, and rhythmic. Then the breathing changed, more like someone choking. We panicked. Kaito slammed the close door button, but the doors didn't respond. The hallway seemed to stretch farther the longer we looked. I took out my phone, it wouldn't turn on. No flashlight, no signal. Yui started crying. Then, we saw them. Hands. Dozens of shadow-like hands crawling out from between the Ofuda papers. Some of them had fingers missing. Others had long, nail-like claws. They didn't reach for us, but they seemed to wave, like trying to beckon us forward. Suddenly, the elevator lights went out. In complete darkness, I felt something brush my arm, cold and damp. Kaito shouted and threw something, and as if it triggered a switch, the lights came back on and the doors closed. We shot back up in silence. When the elevator stopped, it didn't open to the lobby. It opened to the rooftop. None of us had pressed that button. We exited in a daze. The door behind us shut immediately and wouldn't open again. That elevator was never meant to go to B2. A week later, I found an old blog post written by a former hotel employee. It mentioned a secret level built beneath the hotel during construction. The owner had hired priests to seal something inside, something that caused guests to suffer night terrors and disappear. The post ended with, "Never go to B2. It's not part of the hotel. It was built to keep something in." Two years ago, I stayed with a friend during spring break in a small rural village outside of Kyoto. His grandmother had a traditional house near the mountains, very quiet, peaceful. I remember the air smelling like pine and the roads being so narrow that you couldn't fit two cars side by side. One night, over dinner, his grandmother warned us. Don't go near the old tunnel after dark. Especially not on windy nights. Of course, being 19 and stupid, we went anyway. It was me, my friend Yuji, and his cousin Hiro. We waited until past midnight, grabbed flashlights, and headed out. The tunnel was maybe a 20-minute walk into the forest, just off an old maintenance road no longer in use. When we found it, it looked like nothing special, just a short concrete tunnel, maybe 30 meters long, with cracked walls and moss growing along the edges. One side was partially collapsed, so it became a dead end. No graffiti, no trash. Just quiet. Too quiet. As soon as we stepped inside, the air changed. It got cold, fast. Our voices echoed wrong, like the tunnel was absorbing the sound. Yuji suddenly stopped walking. "There's something on the wall," he said. We pointed our lights and saw what he meant, faint handprints. Lots of them. Small handprints, as if made by children. They were discolored patches on the wall, some barely visible, others darker, almost like oil stains. We joked nervously at first. But then Hiro spoke up. "They're moving." We watched. And slowly, as if reacting to our presence, some of the prints began to drip, as if the walls were sweating ink. Then came the sound. Children laughing. Distant, echoing, and wrong. Not cheerful. More like mocking. We turned to leave, but the tunnel felt longer than before. The exit behind us looked farther than it had any right to be. I checked my phone, dead. We picked up the pace. Then Yuji screamed. He pointed toward the collapsed end of the tunnel. "It's my mom," he said. "She's calling me." There was nothing there. But he kept insisting. His mother, who'd passed away years ago, was standing in the shadows, smiling at him, calling his name. We tried to hold him back, but he lunged forward, tripped, and hit the ground hard. That was when we saw it. Just past where Yuji fell, the wall of the tunnel seemed to ripple. Like it was breathing. And from within the concrete, dozens of tiny hands pressed outward, like something inside was trying to crawl through. We dragged Yuji out, sprinting until we were back on the main path. The air immediately felt lighter. But Yuji was shaking and pale. He kept muttering, "She was there, she was there." The next morning, his grandmother wasn't surprised. She told us the tunnel was built during World War II, as part of an emergency evacuation route for children from a local school. But during an air raid, the tunnel collapsed, trapping over 30 children inside. The government cleared the records. The village held no ceremony. No memorial. Locals say the spirits of those children still linger, waiting for someone to acknowledge them, or worse, join them.